Being. I'm your host, Fiorda Giusupi, and today I'm interviewing someone who's inspired me ever since I met her, Haley Videckis. We met at an Alice in Wonderland concert. Well, we met when we went together with her sister, Kendra, who's one of my best friends from college. And honestly, ever since I met you, Haley, I've just felt such a strong connection. You have such a positive energy, and you've just given me such positive advice ever since. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. And you have amazing energy too, so I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. I know you're busy, and especially during this time, it's like we're all focusing on ourselves, and so it's really hard to connect with people. And so I'm grateful that you're sharing this time with me. So, what is something that you want to share with us right off the bat? That's something that's influencing you right now the most, or impacting you, something you're working on. I want to hear it, and I'm sure other people do too.
Yeah, wow. Well, there's a lot going on right now. It's very an unprecedented time being in the pandemic and most of us having to be in our homes. I know it's been scary for a lot of people, and a lot of people's lives have changed, whether that's change of jobs or having to work from home. So for me, a lot of my work doing writing and influencing has already been done from home. And I'm very blessed to have one of my best friends living with me. So we decided earlier this spring that we wanted to launch a brand together. And so this has been an amazing opportunity to really build our brand, to develop the concepts, and to pour a lot of our passion and hard work into this, because it's something we want to share with the world that is important to us, helping women and lifting women up. Our brand is Angel Face, and we're going to be selling fashion products, beauty products. We're going to have a makeup line, all to empower women and promote positivity at the intersection of social justice issues that are very important to us. So I'm excited, and I love working with inspiring women and really like reaching out my network here in LA and expanding that. So I'm excited for that to be released soon.
I'm really excited too. Talking about mental health, you were just talking about how it's hard during this time, and like a lot of us, I feel like, are so busy doing things all the time, and during this pandemic, we're kind of forced to like take a step back and noticing the lack of work we've been doing on ourselves. So what's something that you do for your mental health that's helped you during this time?
Well, I would say every single day I have to get up, I have to play my music and just have positive energy flowing. I have 2 little dogs. So actually for me, it really helps to take care of animals. Like I have a deep connection to my animals. So I love them and spending time with them. But I will work out every morning. It's essential. If I miss my workout, I have lower energy throughout the day. And that may just come from being an athlete and my body being conditioned to like need to like get this energy out, but it also flows through your day. And it's probably my greatest source of creativity is when I'm running or doing circuits. So I've come up with some hit circuits that I'm doing here at the house because the gyms are closed.
Yeah.
And I think so working out, staying active is essential, but also fueling my body with healthy foods. So I drink a ton of water, I stay hydrated, teas, and I try to eat vegan for the most part. Sometimes I'll have vegetarian substitutes, but it's really important, like you are what you eat. So you have to make sure you're putting healthy foods into your body that are going to support you through the day. And then also, slowing down is super important, and meditating. And for me, growing up Catholic, meditating is something that I would probably be scared of and not understand, because actually meditation means to become familiar with. And I was surprised when I started to really dive into my own spirituality and how can I like become a better person was always my goal. How can I be more in control of my thoughts and start to create the life that I want? And so I never experienced that through prayer because I always felt more out of control just asking for things to happen or praying for things to go right, and not really feeling like I have any hand in that. And with meditation, it's more of like you become familiar with your own energy, your own thoughts and fears. They come to the surface very quickly when you're able to slow down, and you start to unravel, all of these thoughts that might be clouding your vision or your understanding for like moving forward in life and getting the things that you want and achieving what it is that you want to have and create, whether it's relationships or career or just peace of mind. So that has really helped me a lot.
No, that's because we've talked about this earlier in the week when you said that, with meditation, it kind of forces you to deal with things. And that's what I was, during my meditation this week, I was thinking, I'm like, I was telling myself, oh, I don't have time today, I'll do it later, whatever. And I'm like, this is literally what's showing me that I need it the most, because sometimes what I do is like, when I want to meditate and I know that I'm going through something, even though I know I need it, I'm like, I don't know if I can handle like thinking about these things right now and those thoughts coming to mind. But in reality, that's what you need. And I think that's what a lot of people, that's what makes them just stick to simply religion and be scared of spirituality, even though at the core they're really the same thing. It's because I feel like they want to feel as though they're not in control, because when you know that you're in control of your reality, then you feel responsible, and then that's where guilt comes in, and you're like, did I really do this to myself? But that actually can be the biggest blessing. Like for me, when I realize I'm wrong, even though I hate it, it's like, okay, now I can finally build like what's right.
No, definitely. And I think too, the whole aspect of surrendering is important because we might experience things that we don't necessarily want to happen. And it's important to not run from issues that we don't want to experience or feel like we created things and hold guilt and hold shame. Those are really bad emotions to even have within you. So just surrendering to your experience while also knowing that you have the power to take control and change the things that you can, knowing the difference between what you can and cannot is really important too.
Thanks for sharing. I love listening to you. I feel like you make a lot of things make sense in my head. Like, oh, so that's why it is related. But my other question is, what was a turning point in your life that kind of led you to spirituality and kind of helped you start your spiritual journey?
Well, I would say that goes back a couple years. When I was playing basketball and I was making my way through college, I feel like I was very focused and I had tunnel vision on, what it is that I wanted for my basketball career. And it was very much individual focus on myself and not really having a greater understanding of the world and the interconnectedness. I mean, I always have felt that we are connected, but I wasn't able to step outside of my own experience in a lot of ways and have deep empathy for others who I may have felt different from or not too familiar with. So I think that when I went to Pepperdine, and that was a Church of Christ school where I was on a basketball scholarship, and I started going through this experience of being treated differently because of who I was suspected to be dating or who I loved. It really opened my eyes to, one, oppression, what that felt like, and growing up in a middle class, very white community. I was privileged, and that's the reality of it, and I didn't experience that kind of oppression ever in my life. So it opened my eyes to, one, what many people who don't have those privileges go through on a daily basis. And it really opened up my heart to like want to make a change and do the right thing, because I know how people should be treated, and I had a deep conviction for wanting to do that. So I went through a pretty intense legal battle for a couple years, and my ex-partner and I fought for the rights of the LGBTQ community, and it was during a time where our rights were not very clear, recognized. We didn't have same-sex marriage yet. That came later in 2015. We didn't have a lot of protections. A lot of attorneys weren't even sure if they could legally take our case and have standing. So
Wow.
for the first time, I was like, wow, are people allowed to treat you differently in the name of God based on who you love? Like, that's okay. That's the country we live in. And it just shook things up for me. It made me question this entire world. And it would put me into a dark place, because I was like really trying to be present and feel for everything I went through, to the point where I was internalizing, a lot of pain. And we pushed through, and we fought for justice, and thankfully it did make an impact. We ended up setting precedent for Title IX in federal court, and it's a precedent that the Supreme Court recently just applied to Title VII to protect workers in the workplace for discrimination. So now the old saying that you can get married on Saturday, post pictures on Sunday, and be fired from your job on Monday if your employer doesn't agree with your marriage, that's no longer legal. So there's a federal anti-discrimination law. Yeah, and I'm like really happy to have been part of that, because like justice takes a lot of time. It's very long. You have to be very patient, and it can be draining, if you're an activist and you're involved in it, the day-to-day work. But being part of something bigger than myself really opened my eyes to, wow, like this, even though this was the most dark, painful experience I think I've ever went to, this has made me like so much of a better person. I'm so much more mindful than I used to be before. And I love myself because I stood for something that, was difficult for a lot of people to stand for or even care about. And so I have a lot of gratitude for that experience, and that definitely opened my eyes to just a lot that's going on in the world and that we're connected to.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that so much. And it just goes to show how much, like you said, patience, and like when you truly believe in something, you don't care that it's taking long. You're like, I want to get there because you see the positive that can come from it. And like, for me, I experienced that with how I'm going to, naturopathic medical school now instead of the regular medicine that I wanted to do. And people are like, oh, like insurance doesn't cover it, blah, blah, blah. But in some states it does, first of all. And second of all, like it's growing and growing in every single state right now. And people are telling me like, oh, well, you're going to wait for that to happen. Like just do the route that has already been shown to work. But for me, it's like the most important part is knowing that you're doing something, like you said, that's benefiting more people, in your opinion, at least. Like for me, I'm like, if I would have gone the other route and had it easy, that may have been, a positive for now, but later on, I'm not going to feel as good about it. And so, honestly, like talking to you, I remember like when we went to the concert and we were talking about this kind of deep stuff, you were saying how to not worry about what people think, and like to move out there in the West Coast and not allow it to bother you. So now I see that the reason you've gotten that wisdom is because you've worked through something that was very difficult.
Yeah, that's really amazing that you're doing that. And I think that collectively people are moving towards wanting to be more homeopathic and natural, and not just taking pills that were prescribed, and really looking into what we're putting into our bodies where it's coming from, and taking more control of our own healing. Like, we are our own healers in so many ways. It's been proven. They're starting to do more science and research into these concepts of our own thoughts and behaviors create the illnesses or the health within our bodies. And it's a matter of like mastering that, because your mind and body connection is so strong, and you have to train yourself of what thoughts I want to think, what I'm allowing my body to intake, and how that's going to affect your genes, because it has been proven that negative thoughts and high stress actually can influence your genes over time. So I think it's important to like have that responsibility on us as well to take care of our bodies.
Exactly. No, I just listened to an interview with Dr. Joe Dispenza and Jay Shetty, and they were talking about how, negative thoughts, like neurons are fired when there's a negative thought or positive thought or anything, but he said neurons that fire together wire together. So these thoughts, if you keep firing the same kind of neurons, then those are going to be wired and much harder to actually change and make a difference. So
yeah, that's so true. Dr. Joe Dispenza, for anyone who's interested in learning more about the mind-body connection, definitely someone to check out, because this is his life's work, and he's actually who I was referring to, who's done a lot of this research. And like, it's incredible to hear some of the stories that he talks about of people coming to they're like weekend or week-long workshops or retreats, and they go through meditation and self-healing. And there are people who have come in blind, or who have lost their eyesight and have been able to see again through this, or people who have come in with a tumor that is supposed to end their life, and they're able to heal themselves. They have these incredible experiences with him, and it shows like on the scans that the tumor is gone afterwards. It's like, you can't make this stuff up, and they're able to repeat this. It's actually a framework that you can apply. So that's what his goal is to start teaching this in children's hospitals, and to give children the tools to heal themselves, because we also have to take into account that depending on how we grew up, what our environment was, who we were surrounded by, the type of talk that we consumed while we were in our early years and we were most malleable, that has an impact on us for the rest of our life. And so it's okay, we can't control those situations of how we grew up and what we learned, but we can take control right now. And if you're confident with your thoughts and you believe that you're in a good place, there shouldn't be a fear in just evaluating them and seeing like, how can I make any positive changes? Is there room for growth? Because I think no matter how positive you are, like, there's always room for growth and reevaluation. It's a process.
No, exactly. I'm reading this book of his called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I just started it
Yeah.
After listening to the interview. I have to read it because a lot of times, like you said, we're in this victim mindset of this happened to me when I'm a kid. And even some people, though, are scared to say that. They're scared to even admit that they have trauma from their childhood, because they're like, I'm not going to blame my parents. Like, they were good parents, and so were mine. But, like, a lot of the things that I have trauma from are from my childhood and are from the things that I've gone through throughout my life, even though some of them were positive. Like when I moved here when I was 7 years old, like I'm glad I moved here from Albania. I got a lot of opportunity from being here, but that was traumatic because, coming to a new country and not knowing anything, even the language or the culture, anything at all, and just feeling like an outsider, that definitely impacts your growth. And so I think it's important to not only recognize it, but just to understand that you don't have to feel guilty. You can just, like you said, move forward and take it as a lesson to actually grow, So
Yeah, definitely.
I was actually going to ask also, just the advocacy work that you've done in the LGBTQ community, and how, how you've seen it grow throughout the years, and like what people can do differently. Because like I was saying to you, I have learned a lot from your posts even, and just seeing your interaction with it. And so I just want, to make it a topic of discussion so that more people can understand, what they could be doing. And not just for that specific community, but also, the Black Lives Matter movement right now and other stuff like that with justice work. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the first things that comes to mind is just what you talked about. Like, you moved here from Albania when you were just a child, right? And so you came in with a whole set of experiences and an understanding of our world that someone who's lived here their entire life wouldn't necessarily have. And I think stepping outside of ourselves and getting to know other people who have the complete opposite experiences as you or who don't look like you is one of the first steps that you can take. I think with me, basketball was a perfect opportunity for me to like really practice that, because it's something I've always done. I've always had majority of my friends, and right now as well, are people of color, and I'm just always trying to be connected with communities who are unlike me and my own. I think that's really important for us to gain a deeper perspective and understanding, and to show our allyship to what other races, ethnicities, people are going through in this world right now. And, with everything, Black Lives Matter, that's happening predominantly here in Los Angeles. I've been a part of the protests. It's something that's very important to me and I stand by. But for, a lot of white people too, I think sometimes it can be uncomfortable to have these conversations about, our privilege and race when, you may feel that you're not impacted by it. It doesn't matter, this community is complaining about something that you don't perceive as being real or having an impact. But I will tell you that it is very real. It's sad that this is happening, but also it's important that it is, because like we're finally having real conversations. Companies for the first time are recognizing that they have not been treating Black and white people within their corporations, or even in the modeling industry. That's something that's been very predominantly talked about, that there hasn't been equal treatment and visibility in the same way. So I think, stepping outside of yourself is important, having uncomfortable conversations, being open, also knowledge, like there's a wealth of information available online. You don't have to be in LA or somewhere that may be considered more progressive in order to understand these things. It's just a matter of seeking out the information. So always continue expanding your knowledge. When you think that you know everything about a topic, you're usually wrong, and you should constantly, continue educating yourself. And I think for me, my advocacy work started when I opened my eyes to what oppression was and understood how it operated. And the truth is, most oppression happens in the same ways across many different sectors of discrimination, social justice issues. So once you understand that framework, you're able to identify when things are unfair, when things could be improved on to be more inclusive. So I feel like once you understand it, your eyes open up to everything that's going on. Like if you have, in my company right now, we're making it a priority to hire people of color. We're making it a priority to make sure women have a seat at the table. I mean, we're a brand to empower women and LGBTQ people. My best friend, she's transgender, and it's important to have these conversations and allow people the opportunity to develop real relationships with people who they might not even understand or recognize exist. So yeah, just, like we got to be real with each other. And I think it's important that we do that.
Well, yeah, thank you. That was amazing. I think like people like to label, others, and then that's how they view them, is through that tunnel vision. But that person has 10 million other things that you actually might know a lot about and can connect with, and then this one thing that you don't know about, they can teach you about, and you can learn from them, about this difference that you guys share. And I've always been super fascinated by differences, because like I was around people who were different from me all the time, but I recognize that a lot of people don't. And it's okay to not know any better, but also like in this day and age, there's so much information out there that it's not okay to like be okay with not knowing, like you might
Yeah.
recognize that, yeah, I don't know this, but Google is just a 2-second search away. Like, so you and social media, a lot of people use it for so many reasons, but why not, message someone like a question that you might have, or like want to get to know them. That's what I use my social media for, is just like whenever I want to know more about someone, like I simply ask them, as opposed to just assuming and then like just creeping on their pictures for my own liking. It's like, no, that's unfair. Like, if this person's sharing that part of their life, like actually be curious to know, and not just follow them for your own pleasure. So
Yeah, and it's really good to ask questions, I think that's normal. I think I had a lot of questions when I started doing advocacy work and having to represent a community, speak on behalf of people. You have to ask questions. It's, if we didn't know anything in the first place, we wouldn't be able to learn, and there wouldn't be a point of all of this. So that's part of the process, and don't be ashamed of that. It's completely normal. um, but I also think it's part of our duty, as humanity. We want to be kind to one another and be more inclusive. I think with the whole labels, I experienced this even not wanting to be labeled and not understanding why there were labels. So I see both sides of the spectrum, because I know that's my chair, by the way. But I know for me, I didn't like being called certain labels, like a lesbian. For me, I didn't necessarily identify as that, and I was very confused as to why do we even need labels. But labels are actually necessary in order for us to change some of these stereotypes and be able to identify and speak on behalf of our own communities, to share our own experiences, because we aren't all the same. And even people who may have the same label, they have 100 different other labels that are not the same. So we're very multidimensional, and I think labels are just a way for us to understand, where we have been, what our experiences are. But at the same time, we are not our past experiences. We're constantly changing. It's good to change and transform and grow out of ourselves. So it's interesting, like talking about labels and stuff, because I do get that. I've been on the end where I haven't appreciated it. But there are a lot of people who love their labels, and I'm like, like, you love your label, that's fine too. So just like, be like a kind person is the way I think you can always be safe. If you're kind and you're willing to ask questions and be respectful, I think that's a great place to start.
no, 100%. So I wanted to lead into forgiveness, Haley, because a lot of times people are afraid to understand others because they also have a lot of grudges. So like what I mean is, they're like, oh, well, how can I understand someone who's like this when I have this experience with someone who's similar and I haven't forgiven them? Or like, oh, that's what my ex was like, screw that. So I kind of wanted you to talk about forgiveness, because I've heard you talk about it before, and it's very inspiring, because I'm a very empathetic person, and a lot of people tell me that I'm weak sometimes for, you let people walk all over you. And I think it's bad to let people walk all over you. I agree. But I don't think forgiving someone is the same as letting someone walk all over me. So I wanted to kind of
Yeah.
thought.
No, that's a really, really important question, because I've struggled with boundaries, for a long time, and thinking, where do I draw the line to protect myself, thinking that a boundary could protect me in a way. But the one thing that I try to remember is someone cannot hurt you without you giving them the power to do that. And forgiveness is really important because I've experienced this just for me, my own personal experience. And I know a lot of people have this in different ways that aren't as intense or legal. But going through my own lawsuit, I had to be a plaintiff and I had to take the stand and express my story of how I was a victim of discrimination and a victim of all these things. And it's actually, this is giving me a great idea to talk about some of the court proceedings now, because this is kind of what we do in life, you know, like we take the stand, like whether we're at the dinner table with our best friends or we're on the phone calling up one of our sisters or brothers and we're venting about something. There's a victim mentality that regardless of what someone has done to you that was wrong, and that not excusing that, there's an aspect of this that is very detrimental to like you're on a soul level, because you can give away your power to external people or things that make you feel out of control, make you feel like you are not the one who determines your own experience, and can make you feel unsafe and anxious and feel like you need to protect yourself, whether that's like boundaries, whether that's ghosting people, not talking to them. There's many different things that we do to protect ourselves because we haven't forgiven and accepted that, yeah, some things may have happened to me in the past that were wrong. This person shouldn't have done XYZ, but I have the power to reclaim my own power, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to move forward and be my authentic self. And that's something that I didn't know how to even conceptualize for a while. Like, what does it mean to be authentic and be yourself? That means in every situation, whether you are in a room or environment where you're triggered by certain people or things, as you were saying, that might seem similar to past experiences, that you go into it like in the now, that you don't take with you all the baggage from, you know, like 5-10 years ago or what happened last week, and you're just present and you allow that like divine energy to just be within you so you can be your highest self. Because any thought or association with the past or what someone did that associates some kind of memory, you're not living fully. It just is what it is. You're allowing your past experiences to define you, and it creates blocks like within your body, within your ability to speak in your own voice, you know. So you notice the difference over time when you start to like step more and more into your power, how there are shifts, you know. Some people remove themselves from your life when you do that, because just like you can't exist with certain energies that are like of different frequencies. Like some are higher than others, and it can push things away. It can also attract things to you that are on your vibration, in your consciousness. So you will completely transform your own experience by changing the way you think and changing the way that you perceive yourself to be just in the now, you know?
Yeah. No, you said it perfect. I think though a lot of people, because I know this for myself, with when you say that, they think that you're saying that, you know, now that you're awakened, you go into a situation that pisses you off and you're just like this lovely light and you never get upset ever. And I'm sure you're closer to that than you may have been 10 years ago. And then for me too, like I definitely was more angry and stubborn and that kind of thing a long time ago than I am now. However, I just want to make clear that this isn't like, oh, you never get angry. It's that you're aware when something angers you and you don't let it get to you as much as you would have, you know, if you were just going to hold it
Yeah.
and move on with your day and be pissed off. So
Yeah, like you can transmute that energy into something new that actually empowers you. You know, for example, let's say there's what you would call a toxic ex situation, right? Where every time you're around this person, they just trigger you. And it might not even be because of what they're doing, but because of things they've done in the past over and over and over. And you just can't see past that. And, you know, some people don't change. They might do something if they're in your life or you're trying to work on a friendship that triggers you, right? But you can be more aware instead of getting mad or internalizing that or thinking that you did something to deserve that or create that. Um, you can call it out in the moment and have a really healthy, beautiful conversation and shine light on it, because for a lot of people, we only do the best that we know we can. And so sometimes, like, you're called to be a teacher or a mentor and bring things to light that other people just can't see because they don't know how to break out of their old patterns. And that's a really beautiful thing. So I think it's like empowering, like to know that you are this light and you do have the ability to love through anything and love yourself through anything, that you can like be a teacher for a lot of people too and shine the light on things that they can't see. I think that's something to be excited about.
no, for sure. And you do a really great job of putting thoughts into words. Everything you're saying is resonating with me, but a lot of these things you're
Mhm.
saying, I've had these thoughts, and I feel like almost a blockage to be able to speak upon it. I feel like because you're on your own out there and like have created your own relationships based on kind of your vibration now, you know, and I feel like I'm very inspired by the way that you've grown and are able to speak about
Mhm.
things and topics. So,
Thank you.
of
That's so sweet.
course, I wanted to ask you about the energy healing and Reiki and stuff that you've done, because a lot of times people are really skeptical of trying these things because they seem so like woo, which I hate that word, but I don't know how else to describe it and not so like how do you explain it to someone who's never done it, or like, you know, what is it that has made you believe in it so much? Like, was it your experience with it? Was it this one time? You know what I mean? Like, just kind of talk about it. You don't have to get too in depth. You can if you want. I'm down for anything.
Yeah, well, I have had some really unexplainable experiences with energy healing and healing of my own body. There was actually a time in the past couple years where I was like transitioning from the lawsuit into normal life again, and I felt so stuck because there was a lot of trauma associated with like my sexuality and how to reclaim my sexuality, because it was very difficult going through what we went through and the light it shined and some of the things that were said. So I think I spiritually became stuck. I didn't know how to move forward. And I started experiencing like really bad hip pain. And I'm an athlete, I'm a very active person. My body is in awesome shape. And it didn't make sense to me why I couldn't even walk without being in excruciating pain in my hips. And I tried so many things. I tried seeing doctors and getting to the root of what's happening, but I knew um, that there was something deeper going on that I needed to bring my awareness to. So I started really focusing on healing my own body, understanding like different symbolisms are. Sorry, it's a loud helicopter over here. There's a lot of things that started coming into my awareness of wow, like just pointing my attention in different directions and feeling much more connected to the world around me. I spent a lot of time in nature. I spent a lot of time alone. So actually this whole pandemic, you know, I'm very comfortable with being alone and by myself and being in my own energy. It doesn't freak me out anymore. It used to be really scary. I'd have a lot of anxiety like not being surrounded. My dogs are home. They're knocking on the door. But yeah, I saw a couple of spiritual healers and did Reiki sessions, and they were really powerful. There were times where you basically lay there and you kind of go into a meditation. They'll guide you through it, and then they will start doing their energy healing on your body. And sometimes that just means them being present in the room. One of the guys who I've worked with will just briefly be with me at the table, and then he'll sit down, and I've never been able to get to some of these heightened states of this transcendence that I can with them guiding me through. It's happened once or twice, but having someone there really allows you, I think it comes down to like safety and feeling like you can let go and you're going to be okay. Just that grounded aspect that sometimes we struggle to achieve in this crazy world. But yeah, I think I opened my eyes up to, wow, this world is a safe place. Like there is a lot of peace here, and I can create my reality by becoming aware of like what I'm absorbing, what I'm believing. And it really helped me start going into meditation daily. I've also done group meditations here, even in my home, and those were amazing. Just being around other like-minded people. There's just been incredible healing. I've been able to get rid of my hip pain, and that's been amazing because I'm able to feel more free and not be stuck in the past. I'm able to move forward, and surprisingly, when I'm shifting my perspective to moving forward, my hip pain goes away, and I notice the trajectory of like my career and everything I want to do also changes. So your body a lot of times is like a reflection of what's going on in your outer world, and your body going into pain is pretty much the last resort of it trying to speak to you. So there are many other messages for you to pay attention to in order to avoid something going wrong. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree. Your body is definitely a teacher, like showing you what's going on, on a deeper level. When I was working at Lululemon, we would get free classes, and a lot of the educators, we would go to yoga together, and it was surprising that it was actually the guys who felt like it helped them more, and I think it's because they hadn't done it, so they were like, whoa, my hip pain's gone away and stuff. And a lot of the people who do it regularly, they were talking about how a lot of times we hold a lot of emotion in our hips, like a lot of the emotion and trauma goes into our hips, and that's why they become really tight. And so it could make sense in this case too.
I've heard of that, especially for women.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's all connected, and I think when you become aware, that's when you start realizing and you start seeing signs, and you're like, wait, like this is all just one. I only have a couple more questions. One of them was how you keep a positive outlook, like just with social media and everything. I know that you're active on there, and I I look up to that a lot, and I want to have more connections over social media and more networking and, being able to impact more people. And I believe in all that 100%. But then there's some days where I focus so much on it, and I'm like, I literally just want to throw my phone down. Like,
Yeah.
so how do you kind of keep a balance? And like, how do you know when someone has negative energy and is just trying to like get to your head?
Yeah, I think I've become a lot better over time getting used to the fact that everyone is going to have an opinion of you that you may not agree with, and one opinion isn't more important than someone else's. And for you to maintain your authenticity, you can't be swayed by what you think other people are going to like or think about you in order to make an impression, because then you're really, again, being influenced by people, places, and things other than yourself, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm pretty aware, like I don't feed into negative energy. If someone says something, I literally, I don't read, maybe if I read the message, like I don't think about it again. I try not to.
Yeah.
And I don't let negative energy into my life anymore. I'm aware of, you know, aware of the deeper fact that it's not me that is the problem. It's something that that person is not dealing with, or they're trying to shift how they're feeling onto me, and that's not right to do. I mean, there are certain times where like people might not agree with something you said, right? And I think it's important to like take things into consideration, to have conversations. That's all fine, but I'm talking more specifically just about like hateful, negative comments and energy that really don't serve any kind of purpose. So that's what I'm talking about. Not to be confused, but um, I think it's important that we just stay like in our own positive mindsets, because at the end of the day, people are going to be attracted to what makes them feel good, what eventually could bring positive energy to them and things into their awareness. And I think if you stay focused on that, you have good intentions. That's always important. Pure intentions. That comes back to you. So that's what I try to do.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I just recently opened my Instagram back up. I took a little break, and even now, I just feel so much more aware of like my usage on there and what I pay attention to and that kind of thing. So I do
Yeah.
think that you just have to make sure you're ready to like handle all of that. Because if you're the type of person that's like always allowing other people to affect your opinions of yourself and that kind of thing, then just being aware of it and not allowing it when it comes to social media. I agree.
Yeah.
And then last question. This is kind of silly, but just about like fake friends and how to know when someone is simply being your friend to get something out of you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because sometimes fake friends are hard to spot. And especially if you have a big heart and you have a lot of love, you're not really looking to figure out someone's intentions or what they're doing. You're just like trying to receive positive energy from them and have that exchange. But I think the most important thing to recognize is time. How long that person has consistently been there for you. If they only come around when things are convenient, or there's some kind of exchange of what they can get. Just you want someone who's checking on you, who gives you love when there's nothing for you to reciprocate back, because maybe you're going through something, or you're in a darker place and you just need someone to lift you up. That to me is a real friend, like someone who will sit there, whether they cry with you or let you cry on their shoulder, like someone who'll just let you be completely yourself, and also show you that they're going to be vulnerable to you as well. I think especially with social media, it can get easy to fall into this surface level kind of relationship and friendship with people, or have a ton of friends, so quantity over the value of what a friendship really is. And I like to have definitely quality friendships, and I try to stay there. So if someone is not being that great of a friend, I just try to be honest in a very nice way, not point fingers, but just be vulnerable. Let them know that you've been going through things, and you would like them to be there for you, and you'd like to give them the opportunity to show you love and show you their friendship, and that they care about you, because some people get a little disconnected. It's not intentional all the time. We get busy. I also notice that um, I think it might be depression, or just us not having enough conversations about mental health, but people are more increasingly becoming bad at responding to messages and keeping in touch. I'll definitely say I haven't been good about this in the past. When I was really struggling, I kind of let a lot of relationships go because I couldn't keep up. I felt this intense pressure to be a really good friend when I couldn't be there for myself. And I think we have to have compassion for people too, because you don't know what someone's going through, and if we're not good, it's easy to point the blame and say we're not good because we don't have a good friend who's there for us too. So I try to be mindful of, like, we're all going through things, but you deserve to have someone who loves you and who's down to be your ride or die, to be in your life and be considered as one for you. So that's how I kind of view it.
Thank you for sharing that. Because, like, for me, like you said, when you allow people to just give their love and you give it right back and you are empathetic, it's really hard to, notice sometimes when someone's being a little sus or when you're like, I don't really know why you're only hitting me up to go out. Like, do you want to do other things with me? For me, it's always like when I share my passions to the people who are like, oh yeah, like I guess, whatever. Or when they don't seem excited for me. I mean, I don't expect people to be like, oh my God, thrilled that I'm, going after my dreams. But I do expect my friends to support me. And I've noticed like the girls in my life, especially the ones that I met in college and after, they really are true friends because they're constantly pushing me, constantly supporting me and cheering me on. But in the past, I had a lot of friends, but they all just didn't really add as much deep value to my life. Like they didn't know me for who I was. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely noticed that difference. And so now that I move away, it's nice to kind of get your perspective on it because I'm sure I'll be, meeting more people and then I'm going to need to kind of know how to, different.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. I really, really loved growing up back at home. There was a lot of consistency, didn't move around a lot. So I was able to develop a lot of friendships and have a really strong group of people who supported me and pushed me. And when I went through difficult times, they had my back, and they had this like very high version of me that I couldn't see, that they reflected back to me, and I was like, okay, I can do this, I can make it and pursue my dreams. And that's important. And moving away, I had to start over, um, because a lot of people in LA, if they've grown up here, they have their group of friends, and it can feel a little lonely, not having those support systems. But you're always going to have the opportunity, no matter where you go, if you move somewhere new, or you're going to a place you haven't met anyone ever before, there are always some people looking for friends and great, amazing people to build those relationships with. So yeah, I think just like you said, make sure that your friends are rooting for you just as you're rooting for them, and that you can feel that authenticity.
For sure. Because we spend so much time, like even now, it's like even when I go out with people, I want those people that I go out with, even if we're just drinking or like having a good time or whatever, I want them to be people who care about me because I'm like, time is so valuable.
You'll definitely make a ton of friends.
Yeah. So,
I have no doubt.
well, I am excited to be closer to you. So,
Yeah, you have to come visit.
I just
Let me know.
well, do you have anything else you want to say? Thank you so much again. Like this was quite some time that you put aside for me, so I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. This was really awesome. I love what you're doing. I think you are going to have an amazing podcast series. So I'm excited to keep watching and see what other guests you have on. But thank you for your time. And I'm really excited for you. Genuinely, I know I've known you for some time, but you always have great positive energy. You have a really driven mindset. So I know wherever you go, you're going to do amazing things. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you
Yeah.
are a part of my journey and that
Yes.
we together. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you, Fjorda.
Love you.
Love you too.